your art studio, we are going to learn how to draw the specific details of a human eye. So get an image of an eye that is really clear and close up, either from a magazine, from the internet, or take your webcam and get up real close to your own eye and take a picture with your eye open, looking as straight to the camera lens as you can. We're going to enlarge our eye to take up a whole paper so that we can study what's really going on there. Have fun! So first, we want to make sure that we have a visual reference to work from. It can be an eye from a magazine, it can be a photograph, it can be from the internet. In my case, I have pulled up a picture of my eye on my laptop and I'll be looking at that. So if you don't have something to work from in terms of like a photograph or a picture from a magazine, then go ahead and take a close-up of your eye and then zoom in nice and tight and put it on your screen and work from that. Again, looking is the most important part of drawing. Now on hand I have, this is like a mechanical pencil. The graphite in it is, I believe, T.A.B, which is pretty soft, and I have a kneaded eraser. And that's how I'm going to begin. The first thing you're going to do is your contour drawing. Begin with the shape of the eye and all of the important lines, including the crease above the eye, and go from there. I want to start with the round shape of the iris. The iris is a perfect circle. It's one of the times that nature is perfect. Both the iris and the pupil are a perfect circle. And once I have the circle, then I want to sort of plot where the rest of the eye will be. Compared to that, the top of the iris, which is the part of the eye with color, like green, blue, brown, whatever. The top of the iris is covered by the eyelid. The bottom typically is not, if it's a regular relaxed face. So contour line drawing of everything. Alright, so now that I have a line drawing begun, I'm going to go back. I'm going to add the pupil. The pupil is centered within the iris, which makes it appear to be closer to the upper eyelid than the lower eyelid, because part of the iris is covered by the top eyelid. It's up here, covered by the eyelid. So center the pupil in the iris, even knowing that part of it is under here. Okay. Then, typically, there is a reflection in the eye because our eyes are mucousy, which makes them look shiny and reflect any kind of obvious light source. So in the case of my picture, the reflection overlaps the pupil. It goes out from the pupil, and then it's actually sort of two-part. I'm not sure what exactly is reflecting in my eye. I was outdoors, but there's definitely clearly a split in the reflection. Alright, so please notice that the pupil is a circle, perfect circle. So don't go tracing something, just draw it the best you can for a circle. The iris is a circle. The eye shape, I carefully looked at the shape of my own eye in my photograph to get that, and then the crease above the eye as well. I'm comparing constantly when I draw. What is the distance from this line to this line? And on and on. That's how you get a likeness for the actual thing you are drawing. And then the final things I need to add for my contour line drawing are the thickness of the skin on the eyelid. So if the lashes are coming, from the eyelid, they're coming from the outer part. We can see a line. This is the thickness of the skin on our face. It's interesting. Examine closely in a mirror or in your photograph. But you will see that there is a certain thickness to this. And then any lashes come from this portion here. We'll get to that in a moment. Now in my photo, I can see a bit of it at the top as well. And then as it comes toward the center of the eye, it sort of disappears into a haze of eyelashes. Then here's the tear duct. The nose is on this side. That's the outside of the face for my drawing. And this is the center of the face where the nose would be. So just knowing that is important. This is the tear duct, and there will be more shadows in this area. The tear duct tends to be fleshy, dark in shadow, and sort of pink if I were using color. And then for the eyelashes, they curve. They curl a little bit. The ones at the edge on my photo curl pretty dramatically. They tend to overlap each other. And I find that the best way to get eyelashes to look realistic is to make this like flick action with my pencil while I'm working. Even if it's not exact to my photo, it'll look more realistic than if I were to make straight lines. Also, they tend to clump together. You want to look to see how much the eyelashes are overlapping the crease and how much they're overlapping each other. It'll be long ones, overlapping short ones, and so on. If you have a variety of pencils with harder and softer leads, like I've got a bit of a variety here, then you can use all of them in the lashes, and that'll make a more realistic outcome. And on the bottom lashes, it's the same, just they're shorter, and they tend to be fewer or just not quite as thick. Alright, so as I'm working on this, I'm getting toward the end of my lashes. And next important thing to note, the pupil is black, and typically, on most people it is, unless I'm skipping the reflection. And I will just shade that in fully black, or as dark as I can get with graphite, which is basically really dark gray. Now, something important to note. Alright, so in the photograph, you can see how the upper eyelid and eyelashes cast a shadow onto the eyeball itself. So there's a whole drop shadow under here and on the curved parts of the eye. You have to remember the eye is going away from us on both sides, which creates a lot of shadow in here and a lot over there. So as you're working, the white of the eye really isn't very white at all. It's got a lot of shadows. So the rest of this is going to come together with shading. Shading will create depth. And as you're working, remember that the iris has radial lines. It's radial symmetry, means it comes out from the center of a circle and goes toward the outside. So to create that, shade in the direction from the center to the outside. Leave lighter areas for where the eye is lighter, and don't shade in the reflection. Usually the outside of the iris is darker, as well as the inside, and it'll have radial symmetrical lines in between. All right, here's for lots of shading. Okay, about halfway through shading, I just want to show that the glare of the light is making that look really silver gray. However, there's actually a lot more differentiation of tones of gray within the iris. Okay, now I'm going to finish shading the crease fold above the eye, under the eye, and the white of the eyeball. Alright, so I noticed that some of my lower lashes were too short. I've made them longer. Again, I'm looking at a photo of my own eye, so it's easy enough to look up and apply what you see. Now, my camera stopped for a moment there, but I actually took this eraser, which is, it's like a mechanical pencil, but it's all eraser. And I went back and I used that to draw the highlights back in. So I did some erasing wherever it seemed like it had gotten too dark or too muddy from smudging from my hand. Now I did have a piece of paper under my hand to guard against that, but it only works so much. So I went around and I tried to pull back in any highlights that had gotten lost. Remember, you can draw with an eraser too. You use your eraser to draw white if you're working on white paper. Alright, this is looking pretty finished. I went the wrong direction with some of the lashes here, so I can add a couple more to just sort of attempt to blend that to the original photo and what it looks like. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with this. And again, it looks better not catching the glare from the light in quite that way. There we go. That is a pretty decent giant eye. Notice how I used the eraser to pull back in the directional lines that go from the pupil to the outer edge of the iris. Our iris is technically a muscle, and it does have the appearance of one if we look closely. It controls how much light goes in the iris, into the pupil to determine what we see. Our pupil is our lens. Alright, let's take one final look. Alright, so here's my photo that I've been looking at this whole time. And then my drawing. Paper is bending forward, so I'm holding it. Let's see. Pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but got the likeness of the eye. And if I wanted to go further, I would include the eyeglass frame and the eyebrow. Alright, until next time, bye.